Hey everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider, and I'm here in our South by Southwest studio, getting to talk to everyone behind. I want to make sure I say the title right. This is a film about the Black Keys. I said that right? Yeah, I got real nervous there. I really want to start with a sincere congratulations. I thought that the doc was illuminating and honest, and it was just really good. So I really want to say congrats. And also, thanks for participating and sharing all the footage. So I know this is a little bit generic, but like, how have you been describing, like, to friends and family, like what you get in this documentary that perhaps you're not going to see somewhere else?
It's really a story about a friendship. It happens to be a friendship where these two guys have this incredible talent, where they make music together, and they discover that, and then the friendship sort of like evolves out of it in a way. And the great thing about the film, I think, is that the music plays such a big role in telling the story.
I'm so curious, and this is the thing I've been most curious about since I saw the film. You guys, in the film, it seems like communication can sometimes be an issue between the two of you, or maybe you're not communicating about your feelings as much. And I'm curious, what did you both learn about each other, perhaps that you didn't know after watching the movie?
Well, I think making the movie would have been impossible up until the last 2 years, But I think watching the movie, I don't think I actually. It was crazy to go back in time and see kind of moments unfolding that I think since then we had sorted through. We had worked it out. But to see it happening in real time back then was kind of fascinating, And I just kept wishing that, we could pause the film, go back in time, and just talk to each other, sort it out. But I think that's what's cool. That's what was interesting to me. That was what was compelling to us about the idea of a documentary, is that, well, a few things, but one thing is that, when you're in a band for 20 years, you have you have a definitive story, and it's never told clearly, and so like we'll meet a journalist, and they'll have all the facts kind of mixed up, and they might not even know like that we have known each other for so long, and so I thought like having something that could clearly demonstrate to an audience the clear and whole story, and what it looks like to start from where we started and to get where we got, and all the things we had to go through. But I think communication is the number one reason why most bands fall apart, why most relationships fall apart. So clearly that's always an important issue, with any relationship.
Do you want to add anything?
No, yeah, I thought it was. I didn't really learn anything, just got reminded of everything mostly, but it was amazing to see the footage they dug up, stuff I never even remembered doing, you know what I mean? Things that I didn't even know existed, some of the footage and photographs. It was really cool.
I am curious, with documentaries, everything, you need to get clearance to use footage and photographs. So how difficult was it? And was there any footage that you couldn't clear that you're like, oh my God, how can we not clear this?
No, we got everything. But, what happened is that when you do these projects, things bubble to the surface and it takes time. But like last summer, we got wave after wave of like incredible material, and we were like drowning in it. So, which was like a very great problem to have. But, we really had to find the story and the material and sort of excavate it out of, it was 500 hours. So just, not all bands, I don't know if you guys were thinking about this at the time, like, let's have someone photograph us or let's have someone film us. But like there's just a lot of material that exists. So that was huge for us.
How long was your first cut of this movie?
Oh God, 3 hours. Yeah. It's always a process of distillation, and then you watch it and it's literally like watching paint dry, and you're just terrified, and you're just like, oh my God.
When did you guys actually want to see a cut of the film? Did you wait specifically to when there was a cut that you were happy with, or did you want to see in versions of it along the way?
We didn't see a cut until September of in the fall. Yeah, it was very rough at that point. And so we had a big powwow to kind of figure out, how it was going to move forward, and feel good for everybody, and for Dan and I.
Or if we needed to fire someone.
Yeah, or burn the film.
Those meetings.
Yeah, I think it was very important for Dan and I that it feel chronological, because I think the story in our minds, it exists in a chronological order, and obviously it's like a choose your own adventure book. It's like as you see it unfold, it's like we've chosen to go here, but we could have gone here. But I think to keep it, at least in my mind, making sense, it had to play out that way. And initially, Jeff had it kind of moving a little bit more back to, past to future, kind of cutting in and out, which is a more creative way to do it. But I just don't think it was playing for this story.
You wanted to tell the story linearly.
Yeah, like I know it's not the hip way to do it, but some stories are best told that way, I think.
The thing about that I really loved, one of the many things I loved about the film, is just how honest you guys were and willing to depict that not everything is flowers and perfect behind the scenes. But I'm imagining that maybe there was footage that depicted it maybe going, too far or something too personal. Did you guys ever see, was there ever anything that you're like, maybe this is too much, too behind the scenes?
You mean like fight footage?
No, I don't want to say that you guys physically fought, except it's all over the internet. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? Like, was there anything that you felt that this is too much to us? You know what I mean? And maybe we want to just keep this not in the movie.
Nothing interpersonal was pulled from the film. Yeah.
Yeah, I kept rehearsing in my mind the conversation I was going to have with them to be like, look, guys, we got to leave this in. And we never had the conversation because I don't know, they that's not how they think, and they wanted it to be true and real.
Yeah,
so
we were open-minded about everything.
Yeah.
They had some ideas about certain things that might have been juicy to put in the movie, and we let it play out and made a decision at the end to leave some stuff off, so...
But the thing that main thing that we're not going to discuss that was pulled out is it has nothing. It's not a dynamic. It's not a thing that's between Dan and I. It was just some other bullshit, and we just like I just didn't want anything overshadowing the story of the band because I just kept thinking about this thing that when I was 15, my dad got me this Devo CD, and it's Devo Live. This is a band from Akron, where we're from. And in the thing, there's a little story about them being from Akron and going to New York City and playing at Max's Kansas City, driving in a van all day, playing, driving back all night, and then getting calls from Warner Brothers and stuff. And to me as a teenager, like this was the only thing I had that was like a testament document of like this band from your town made it, and this is how they did it. They got in their van and they played and they worked their ass off essentially. And I was like, to me, the whole interest in the documentary was like, partially was like that. Like, maybe there's a 15-year-old kid out there in like Akron that needs to see this thing, see how it actually went down, see the shithole that we used to live in, see like the minivan we used to tour in, see how it started, and that's the thing. You were telling me about how you started, this website, and I was like thinking about, when we started the band, once we realized it could be a thing, how much more work it took. And it was like, to this day, 22 years into it, the last year, I mean, we spend, even on days off, there's 3 or 4 hours committed in some way to the band working on it, whether it's a phone call or email or discussion between Dan and I. It's constant work.
Well, the one thing, and I'm curious if you could talk about it, is that as the band becomes bigger, there is more people that rely their livelihood around the band and the responsibility of them feeding their families and what the tour means for certain people. And so I'm sort of curious, like how much, when you're thinking about what you want to do and the band, you know what I mean? That sort of peripheral thing, and how much does that sort of not enter the equation because you can't really think of it like that?
I mean, it enters the equation in the sense that we tell our people we need to make at least this money just to keep everybody going, you know? So, you know, like the first X amount of dollars you make in a year is just needs to be there to sustain everybody. But that's not really, that doesn't really feel like pressure to me, at least. It just feels like the cost of doing business the way you want to do it with the people you want to do it with.
So a question I have for you guys and also for you, AI is, you know, a thing that everyone is thinking about in Hollywood, the music industry is thinking about. And I'm just curious, for the two of you, do you view AI in the music industry as this nuclear weapon that's about to go off? Or do you sort of see the pros and cons of it? Like, I'm just curious your take. And as a filmmaker, what's your take on the coming, you know, the AI that's coming towards Hollywood in terms of allowing people to do things, but it's also copying a lot of other people's work?
I can give you my answer of that. I always assume that, like, kind of most pop music, whether, you know, it is kind of, it's geared towards an audience that just wants to hear a pop song, you know. And then when you, like, so it could be, I mean, I'm sure AI is going to play a huge role in that kind of stuff. But I think that there's this thing with people that they gravitate towards, you know, there's like the cult of personality or whatever. I feel like what's always driven me to art, especially music, is an attraction to like the dynamic within a band or the pull of a singular artist. You know, I think that, you know, it's like you see all these like holographic Japanese pop bands or something. You know, that's AI. I'm sure that there's a market for that, clearly, for people that are into that. For me, like I've always wanted to feel the authenticity of a situation. You know, it's like, and so, yeah, I think it's going to affect things, but I think, you know, people are still going to be drawn to humanity. I feel like in a film situation, like if you can conjure up a background that costs nothing versus having to pay to build a whole set, like, you know, that's going to be a very useful tool, you know. And in making music, you know, the idea that you can, you know, if you don't, like the gatekeeping behind making music, which was for us was like you had to learn to play, we had to learn to record ourselves, we had to get the equipment to do it, we had to figure out how to get the sounds to be listenable. We had to do all this stuff, how to get it in the hands of people. I mean, now, you know, if you have decent taste, you can have kind of AI help you a lot, you know, and I don't think that discredits the idea, you know, but I think I don't think AI is going to give you something to say or give you like a point of view, you know?
Well, for me, I mean, we haven't really, in my industry, apparently there's some new AI software that can generate a rough cut of a reality TV show in like 5 minutes. I just like would love to feed the Black Keys 500 hours of footage into that machine and see what it comes out with, because I just don't think it would work. I mean, I don't know. It's just like not how we make movies. But maybe someday it will. But it just really hasn't hit home yet for what I do. I'm
curious what, and I apologize for not knowing, but what is the release plan? When can your fans actually see the film?
We produced the film independently, and we are right now, the streaming platforms just watched it a few days ago. So
did you wait for the South by premiere to let everyone see it at the same time?
Yes.
I would imagine that there's a lot of people calling. I'm going to take a wild stab at that one.
Well, it's a very exciting moment.
No, for sure. When you think about, you've gotten to travel the planet and played at so many different venues. What is a city that you wish you had more time in to actually explore? Because I have a lot of musician friends, and they will say that it's not like Spinal Tap, but a little bit, where you're in one city and then you're at the next city, and and it doesn't leave you a lot of time to go out and, you know, unless you're playing multiple dates.
Yeah, it took us about 20 years to figure out sort of how to tour and try to enjoy ourselves, like to schedule in time where we're enjoying ourselves, you know, days off here and there. We used to just like hit the road and like never stop to smell the roses ever. You know, I mean, we didn't have enough money to stay in town, so we'd play the show and then just instantly leave town, stay in a roadside motel or something, and it was just kind of miserable. You know what I mean? It would be pretty much impossible for me to do that now, you know? So, but yeah, we make it a point now to kind of, every time we go on tour, schedule a little bit of enjoyment time to balance things out.
Yeah, I mean, and early on when we were touring, there was no, you know, we started 5 years before the iPhone, so it was like, you show up in a city, you'd have no idea where anything was. You'd have like
The mess of MapQuest printouts.
yeah, and then the actual road map, and then you would just have to guess where to go, and so there's a lot of towns that we've been to that we just don't even know anything about, you know. Like I feel like we've been to London maybe 40, 50 times, and I feel like we're just kind of figuring it out, you know. Because prior we'd show up and it'd be like, okay, we've built in no time for enjoyment. You have to do this BBC thing, you have to do this interview, your show, and then you have to go to Sheffield or whatever. You have to go to your next show. So when we were making our new record, it was coming out in a couple of weeks. Ohio Players, we went to London in January of last year for about a week to do some recording with Noel Gallagher from Oasis, and that was the first time that we had been to London together where we had purposely built in time to go to restaurants and hang out and do stuff. And so that was 20 years after the first time we went to London.
First of all,
We're not smart. We're not
no,
smart.
but
We're frugal.
But also the thing that this goes back to what I was saying, which is when with the costs of touring, because if you do decide in a London thing and you know to spend that extra day, doesn't the crew and everyone, they still have to get paid? Or I don't know how it all works, but you know there's a cost.
Yeah, we tend to pay the people that work for us. No, it's expensive. It's very expensive, and also we were insistent at that time to keep everybody close to us at the nicest hotel, and we were aware of the expense. But at some point, it comes into you have to have we've had the discussion, which is like, what's the point of doing all this if we can't enjoy it, you know? And honestly, you know, at a certain point, like when you're trying to do certain things, like you got to keep your people. You have to go on that adventure together, you know. So at that time, we were keeping everybody in a 5-star hotel and just kind of balling.
But I also think that listen, I've been on movie sets and on TV, and the fact is, like, craft service matters. Where you're staying matters. Yeah. Like, if you do it super cheap, people are like, I don't want to do this.
I mean, I just had a conversation about this yesterday multiple times, but I was just like, we have to stop feeding the crew pizza. Like, we haven't had this discussion, but like it should be obvious. You can't keep giving people in their, 40s and 50s pizza for every fucking meal. Yep. But that's another thing that we have learned about this band is that for the most part,
So we got them heroes.
Yeah, yeah. You have to get your hands involved in every little aspect of it, or it's gonna get fucked up.
Question I'm asking everyone is, if you could only watch one TV show for the rest of your life, what TV show would it be and why?
One TV show for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Dan's might be South Park.
No, I mean,
People have said South Park, though.
I think it's a good choice because there's so many episodes.
I've watched as people have had full-on debates. Well, look, if it's going to be the rest of my life, it has to have 20-something seasons.
Right. Yeah.
Not just a 2-season show.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good guess.
I mean, the show already exists, and I watch it. It's SVU, Law and Order SVU, and there's like 6 million seasons.
But that falls in. There's a ton of
this
episodes.
already exists for me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this like something that at like late at night it's like the fall asleep show, or are you
it's
like
my baby blanket.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I get it.
Mine would be like, I think something like Doomsday Preppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there multiple seasons?
Only one season.
Yeah. There's only one pilot. And
Watch it on repeat on his desert island.
yeah. And just watch the same thing. What has anybody said Home Shopping Network?
No one has said Home Shopping Network, but I don't know if that counts.
I think it counts.
Has anyone said Love on the Spectrum yet?
No, they have not said that.
Okay.
Are you switching from SVU?
No,
I think if you were on
I feel like I could grow old with SVU. Do you know what I mean?
you can. That's a mature choice. I mean,
Again, a lot of seasons.
I'm saying Home Shopping Network, and I'm actually taking that to the floor for debate. That is just one continuous episode.
You know something? You are actually, I can't argue with you. Yeah. It's like a 24/7. Yeah, I mean, it might actually qualify. That's an asterisk, but it could qualify.
But it would also, if it was there, if you were by yourself, you could only watch the one thing. It might just give you enough to think about to keep you from going nuts.
Again, I can't argue with your logic. I wish I could.
Now, anybody that says the Gem Network is a psychopath. And you need to let me know who says it.
I think your answer was a unique one. I've heard a very specific shows from West Wing to SNL to you name it, South Park.
C-SPAN?
I've not heard C-SPAN.
I might take C-SPAN over Home Shopping Network.
At least you'd be informed of what's going on
in
the chaos of the government.
Deep in the woods.
I'd be radicalized, sending nice little packages to people.
Jeff,
what is your choice?
I never watched anything more than once, but I just started for once. I'm rewatching The Sopranos, so I guess I would say that because I love that show. But.
Yeah, a number of people have suggested that or mentioned that. I definitely have to touch on the fact that you guys do have a new album coming out, and I did, watching the doc and also researching. You have a lot of cool people that you collaborated with. Was there? I guess what can you tease fans about the album, and what are you excited for people to hear?
Yeah, we have a new album coming out April 5th called Ohio Players, and there's actually a cool scene captured. It's kind of like right at the beginning of us making this album that Jeff got in Nashville. So we collaborated with Beck a lot on the album, and Noel Gallagher, and a couple of other producers who co-produced, Dan Automator, and a guy, Greg Kirsten, who's done a bunch of stuff with like Adele and people like that. And then we have a couple rappers on the album too. We've got Juicy J and this guy Lil Noid. Well, essentially the album, to summarize it, is like we started making it in the spring of 2022, and during the course of touring the last album and finishing that up, we just went really deep into this album. We worked harder on this album. We spent more days in the studio than anything else we've ever made, by like threefold, fourfold. So it's kind of like what we were kind of trying to do is to try to do the rare thing, which is like 20 plus years into your career, make an album that people might consider one of your best. So we pulled out all the stops.
I am curious because something that you touch on in the doc, and I know I have to wrap with you, is the fact that creating songs for like an arena, or looking for a song that might have commercial hooks in it, or what kind of music do you want to put out for your audience, and so I'm just curious, with an album like this where you're spending 2 years, you're bringing in all these cool people to collaborate with you, what kind of dimension are you thinking about in terms of, is this music for us? Is this music for arenas? Is this music for, do you know what I mean? Like, how much is that entering in the equation of this album versus just finding the music and seeing what happens?
When we first started, we really didn't technically know what we were doing. And so we made a collection of songs and put the album out on it shows it in the documentary. We get some, Rolling Stone review. We start getting some press and some heat that kind of, carries us through the first couple albums. And then at some point, that stuff that just started coming to you automatically without any seeming effort other than just doing what was coming naturally, at some point, you hit this, you have a realization, which we had like 6 albums into our career, which was like, maybe we would be more popular if we worked harder on the songs, put more effort into it. And I think that's like a hard realization for certain artists. Maybe some don't ever get there, which is like, maybe we're not as successful as we can be because of us. And so I feel like once we learn that, we were able to apply it when we wanted to. And this was an instance of us making songs for us, but being very aware of what was working and what wasn't working for an audience.
My last question for you guys, and it's for all three of you. You guys have done such great music over the 20 plus years. If someone has actually never heard a song by the Black Keys, what is the song you'd like them starting with? And if you want to indulge me on that. And Jeff, you have made a number of films. If someone has never seen anything you've done, what's the first thing you'd like them watching and why?
Of course, I want them to watch. This is a film about the Black Keys. I don't know. It's I'm really excited about it. So,
and honestly, you should be.
Yeah.
This is going to be, people are going to really dig this movie.
yeah.
I think the cool thing about the music that Dan and I make together is that it is ever evolving and changing and reflecting of what we're into at any kind of moment. And so each album is kind of a snapshot into what's going down with us taste-wise at any given moment. So, I think if I was going to tell someone where to start with our band, I would probably just say to start with Brothers, the album. Because it's kind of like the beginning of part 2 of the Black Keys. And from there, you can go either way and maybe have an understanding.
Do you want to add anything, Dan?
That's a good one. That's a good one to start.
Cool. Listen, I really want to say sincerely, thank you so much for coming in and for making music. It really makes a difference to so many people. And I just want to say thank you. And thank you so much for making the documentary. And I am confident that it is going to be seen by many, many fans soon. You guys did a great job. And for more interviews, please keep watching Collider.